This will be a log entry talking about growing older with video games. Truth be told, I just got through watching a Netflix documentary called High Score. I watched all the parts of it, and yeah, it talked about video games coming up, how it was created, how it was technology that kept building on itself because of people being innovative and hacking, basically. You know, you didn't get video games without somebody modifying something or hacking it from its original purpose. And there's a lot to say about life on that. I mean, new things are created all the time, but we take these general purpose items and modify them, break them down, and remake them. You know, there's lots to say about the same thing with the universe, but that's for another time. But growing up with video games, I've and I think what some might see in a sad way, or probably pathetic, but to me, video games have been a linchpin in my life since easily the early 90s. Easily the early 90s. I'm a kid of the 90s, and it's now the year 2021. I'm 36 years old. 4 years to be away from 40 years old. And I don't see myself stopping with video games at any point. I've been through life. I've tried marriage. I tried for kids. I tried that route. And at least at that time, it didn't really work out. I don't know if I'll be there again. I might. But recent events in my life have kind of got me to take stock at the things I appreciate the most. And video games are one of them. Video games are the basis for this channel. Silent Fan 85, which is my online alias. It's who I am. It's a part of who I am. And games have taught me so much and provided so much relief from the pain of my life. So much distraction that was needed growing up, going through the things that I went through. And I'm forever grateful for that. For every creator, for every animator, scriptwriter, level designer, everybody that contributed to video games in some way helped my life. And it's the same for everybody that wrote a book, or everybody that designed a country. You know, unfortunately, a lot of that is, when it comes to settling a society, there's a lot of blood involved. But if it wasn't for those events in history, I wouldn't be here where I am. Thank for my ancestors and the random strangers that came up with these inventions. But one thing that's really cool is that there are things in life you can depend on that they don't care how old you are. They don't care what you're going through. They don't care what it is. And that's exactly what gaming has been for me. I've been able to get in and out of worlds. I've been able to play with friends across the planet. I've been able to make friends across the planet. And I've also been able to do the same thing with this channel. Which is not a whole lot that people do. You know. And honestly, I'm just kind of babbling, but it's real for me. A lot of people might have dedicated their life to a certain faith or a religious standpoint, or, you know, raising kids, having a family. At this point in my life, that's not my reality. I don't know if it will be. Like I said, I tried it, and it didn't really work out, but video games has been, well, for all intents and purposes, sort of a soft savior of mine. Notably Final Fantasy. Especially Final Fantasy. I got a lot of time into Final Fantasy. World of Warcraft is another one. Street Fighter. Pokemon, obviously. It's funny. Japanese RPGs like Final Fantasy that, you know, wait and attack time-based model that is on old school RPGs. I don't know, not a whole lot of people aren't into it as much as they used to be, because that's just the way the generations work. Things like side scrollers kind of goes away with the dodo, you know. I mean, people still enjoy it for a retro feel, but yeah, it is what it is. Hey, Chimp Pimp. Dude, I love the name. I love the name. Chimp Pimp. What's going on, man? Good to see you. But yeah, so, you know, video games have always had a generation, and there's still going to be a lot to go. I mean, I think the forefront that we're really going to be looking to in the future is all in here. I think at some point we're going to be hacking our own head to dive into these worlds that we've done with a mouse and keyboard or with a controller. Nowadays we're using it with VR goggles. I unfortunately haven't been able, due to finances, jump into that part of gaming yet, but I look forward to it. You know, and I look forward to seeing what's going to happen. These beautiful worlds that we're going to be able to explore and engage in, you know, especially when you take the old school games and redesign them for this new platform of virtual reality. It's a dream as a serious gamer to be able to explore like Azeroth, as myself, be who I want to be. Play through the storyline, even, or Pokemon. I mean, we're now fixing to look at the, you know, Pokemon's fixing to release Legends Arceus, where it's kind of an open free world, and it's something Pokemon players have wanted for a long time, to have a playthrough kind of like just an open MMO, to go about and catch these Pokemon in this world and just be able to explore. That's going to be awesome. And there's a lot of forefronts we're looking at and discoveries technology-wise that is going to be awesome to see. And I count myself as significantly happy to be able to witness this as it goes on. It's going to be fantastic. Yeah, no, I know. I agree, Chimp. I give it within 10 years. Within 10 years, I think we'll make significant leaps and bounds. Of course, you know, this, I could also be sounding like somebody in the 50s that is hoping for flying cars by the year 1980. So, I don't know, man. There's going to be a lot of stuff to come about with gaming. And question is, are we going to be able to handle it? Because growing up as I did with all these different consoles and all the kinds of games I got into and played, borderline addiction. I mean, distraction turned into something you could escape with. And the real question is, when we do get to the point where we're hacking our brains, are we going to be able to handle it? It's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy. Ready Player 2 and Ready Player 1 actually touches on this. Two of my favorite books by Ernest Cline. Obviously gamer related. A lot of throwbacks, a lot of references. Very fan service, to be honest. But it touches on the demons of being addicted to alternate realities, virtual reality, immersive reality, because you're escaping the world from around you, especially, you know, as a child of abuse. That's when I leaned on video games for, was escaping my reality. And it's a very real concern, obviously. But I don't think it's near as consequential as smoking or drinking or anything to that level. But it can be a problem if you let it get its claws into you. But with that said, there is now professional proponents to gaming. I mean, you see major e-leaguers, you know, making serious bank by playing games, and streamers like myself. You know, I stream on a casual basis, but I've been doing it for over 10 years and got a fantastic community that pops by every so often and say hi and help support me throughout the years, you know, that watches this stuff and engages with me. And I mean, look at the 90s. I mean, nobody, early 90s, late 80s, nobody could have foreseen where video games would have went. Nobody. Maybe a few people, but they were visionaries, you know. But nobody would have said, you know what, the internet, one day, because of Doom, because of the networking genius of behind one of the creators of Doom, you're going to be able to play every game online. You're going to be able to play with people across the globe. Millions of people would not have believed you. Let alone watching people on the internet just sit there and play games. Straight up. I mean, think about it. If back in the day, if you had a camcorder, you know, a tape recorder, and one of the bulky ass things you'd carry on your shoulder, and you would set it up in the living room, and you would record yourself just sitting there on an old CRT monitor playing Super Nintendo, you know, just recording yourself, and then trying to put it up a Blockbuster, say, hey, I have this idea. I recorded myself playing video games, and I want to put it here at Blockbuster and let people rent it. They'd laugh at you. Nobody would have gone for that back in the day. Nobody would have gone for that. Because it could be the real-time aspect, but back then, video games were still in its infancy, for the most part. But people would just find it like, boy, why would I just sit and watch you play video games? Why would there be interest in that? And yet, here we are today. Streaming being a major proponent to getting the word out about new video games. Helping people build a life around it. Unfortunately, a lot of people abuse that right and they mix it in with certain things, but it would not have worked back in the day, but it works nowadays. It's just crazy to think about. There would be a real problem with addiction if they do become that complex. Yeah, and I agree. I mean, because especially if you start, you know, getting into your head, it is amazing how far things have come. And that's the thing is, everything related to gaming evolves. Gaming is now an industry that's worth both more than the entertainment and other industries combined. It's amazing what has gone on. But it's just nuts, man. It is so nuts. And growing up in this generation, you're seeing things evolve. You're seeing generations become so much better at what we used to be the pinnacle of, you know. Growing up, I was a badass Street Fighter player, man. I was awesome, especially Marvel vs. Capcom in the arcade. Ooh, man, I could kick some serious ass. In fact, I had a couple of cons. I was, you know, I kicked some serious ass on console on Super Nintendo with Street Fighter 2 Turbo. But nowadays, man, even at my age, look, I'm not even 40 years old yet, but there are times I could still barely keep up with these newer generations, especially on Fortnite. And I have trouble, man. I have trouble mainly because of health concerns, but it's amazing how gaming itself is a representation of people in society evolving and our brains getting faster and better at, you know, everything. Now, with that said, there's also talk of gaming adding to the effects of ADD or ADHD, because our brain is constantly wanting to process this information. But we get better at it, and it can be a bit of a bad thing, I suppose, but at the same time, you see people fix problems a lot faster. Just a lot faster, and it's always amazing. Hey, Timio, how you doing? Good to see you. It's just amazing how generations go, man. It really is. And being born in '85, a monumental year in gaming when the NES hit the market, I had no idea what I was in store for when I got my first Atari. I think it was around 92, give or take. The very first game I ever played was Pitfall. And I just remember being scared of being eaten by an alligator. And it's still kind of a young age, but I remember the graphical alligator, and it scared the crap out of me. But I still played. I still played because I had recently seen, I didn't fully understand it, but I had recently seen an Indiana Jones film. And I was like, oh my God, this is just like Indiana Jones. Holy shit. Of course, I didn't cuss at that age, but it was a hell of a thing, man. But it was a freaking pixelated alligator. You know, I mean, back then, pixelated ducks looked like dragons. Dragons looked like ducks. It was just understanding, and you had to use your imagination a lot more. Much like with pen and paper games, which of course gives us modern RPGs. But it's crazy, man. Bit stuck. What are you stuck with? I'm with you. I used to be the best at some games. Now I'm absolutely schooled by a 7-year-old, right? Right? See, that's what happens. That's what happens. These newer generations, man, I tell you. It's just a general talk, Timmy, reflecting on generations of gaming. And I'm multi-streaming right now on both YouTube and Twitch. And this is just a live vlog I do mainly on the YouTube channel, but I'm starting to do it on the Twitch channel too. So that's basically what it is. And I do these lives so you guys can engage a bit if you want to. I've been a vlogger for over 10 years. That's how I started my YouTube channel. And then I started throwing my video game lifestyle into the mix, and I'm still doing it. So, you know, it's gaming has been a boon to my life in a lot of ways. And I get to meet random strangers on the internet all day. And it's one of the most amazing things ever. Especially when you have social anxiety, like I do. I was diagnosed with social anxiety, bipolar. So, you know, when you're talking to an inanimate object like this camera right here, and you guys are watching this throughout the planet, it just amazes me. And I can read you guys in text. Sometimes I'll do Discord. You know, people will pop in there as well. And it's just amazing how far technology has come, man. How much gaming has propelled forward. And you know, the applications for military through gaming is amazing and a little scary. Especially if you believe the Polybius urban legend. Basically, Polybius was a black game station back in the day, late 80s, early 90s, that people believed was set up at arcades, local arcades throughout the country, to record people playing a military game. And those high scores that was in the arcade cabinet, the machine was taken out and it would just be gone the next day. And the U.S. military would actually recruit the high scores through a secret program. One of the craziest things I've ever heard. But when you look at games like America's Army back on PlayStation 2, they actually did. That was used to kind of get a sense of how people would do with war and the mental aptitude for it through studies in that game. And of course, the government used that as a bit of a marketing strategy, and they do the same thing on Twitch. In fact, recently a lot of politicians have been kind of down their throats about it because you see these recruitment ads on Twitch, and it can be a little scary. You know, it can be a little scary. But at the same time, people needed, we need a defense of some sort, so I guess it's understandable. Although I don't fully agree with it, but it is what it is. Sometimes technology is going too far. I agree. With technology, you get Pandora's box, and you don't know what you're going to get. You don't know what's going to happen, especially companies like Google, who I'm currently streaming on their platform. Don't shut me down. Don't shut me down, bro. They can get too big, and they're, these companies are based in technology. There's Big Brother programs. They're obviously going to spy. I have no problem with it. I got nothing to hide aside from, maybe my web history, but that's about it. I'm pretty much an open book. I mean, like, you kind of have to be a vlogger for, like I said, well over 10 years now. 12 years, actually, now that I think about it. I started vlogging and doing social media before I got married, and I loved doing it. I loved spreading some sort of a positive message, engaging with people. I didn't start going on a live platform like Twitch and streaming until about maybe 5 years in, give or take. Just mainly because I didn't have the connection. I only had DSL, and Lord knows DSL was not fast enough at the time to support a solid stream. So I just recorded videos and uploaded it. You know, I recorded myself. The very first video game I ever recorded was World of Warcraft, and it wasn't how you normally see it today. I had actually set it up like I talked about earlier. It was me in front of a camera with the screen over here, and I'm right here, and it's kind of a side angle, and you see me just playing. I was just a dude with a camera. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, you know. Nowadays, I've obviously got a lot more experience, but it's nuts. It's really nuts. Also, the problem with the company being too big, it actually suppresses advancement as real competition addressed. Right? I agree. I really do, especially in that regard, because it's competition is going to want to push people, you know, and that's really where it's at. I mean, the only I would also say though that progress also is gleaned through moments of inspiration, even without competition. You know, take Isaac Newton. He was inspired by getting hit in the head with an apple to get inspired to think about gravity, you know, or to further his study in gravity and stuff like that, you know. Steve Jobs is the perfect example of yours. He wanted to create something different while also pushing forward a vision and a dream. That guy, rest in peace, Steve Jobs, despite all his faults, was a visionary. Shigeru Miyamoto, what he did with Nintendo, total visionary. Bill Gates, vision and visionary in his own right, I suppose. Elon Musk, definitely a visionary. Kind of a weirdo, but hey, what visionary isn't? I mean, you know, you can keep going on and on, but I'll always be grateful for Shigeru Miyamoto because he really had a hand. And man, I mean, seriously, he is a major proponent of video games. Without him, I'd argue that I don't think we'd be where we're at when it comes to gaming in general. Nintendo throughout the years has advanced so many ideas, and creatively too. They've faced their times of being damn near bankrupt, but wow. I mean, it's just amazing what these guys have done. What an amazing company too. They obviously are out for their money, as any business would be, but at the same time, they do give power to the players. I mean, you don't really hear of a whole lot of gaming companies back in the day anyway. They may have it still today. I haven't really looked at it, but back in the day, they had power players, and they had set up local phone banks to where gamers could call in and just talk about video games. They would call in and get tips and tricks from live operators. I mean, that blows my mind. Late 90s, I believe, is when it happened. But these phone banks were set up. People would call in and get cheat codes. The power players were literally just sitting. It only went on for a few years, but they were literally just sitting in these cubicles playing video games, like live, while they're on the phone with people around the planet. Now, the only downside of that would be all the whiny ass gamers that you got to deal with. Because let's face it, we can be a whiny lot. We really can. Especially if it's rage induced. I've worked technical support for more than a few years. I can only imagine. It's crazy. Crazy as those visionaries come up with ideas no one has ever asked for, and any market research would say it wouldn't work, right? But they become game-changing ideas, you know? I mean, and that's just further proof. Don't let anybody ever tell you it's a dumb idea, it'll never work. You know? I mean, it's all about not giving up. Despite the challenge, despite the pushback, despite the doubt, you know. I wish, and I can be in some regard. Hey, Chimp, thank you for the follow, man. It should pop up here in a bit. I've been having trouble with the alerts. I got to totally redo this whole thing. Things have been freezing up, graphics left and right. I don't know what's going on. I'm also currently having trouble with my PSU. The power supply is kind of, it's clicking a little bit. I've had it for a few years, but you know, speaking of in that regard, I'm a big PC gamer, but I'm also a big console gamer. I'm a PlayStation fanboy. I grew up PlayStation for the most part. Again, mainly because of Final Fantasy. And, you know, Final Fantasy was an exclusive back in the day to PlayStation, as well as Nintendo. But I didn't really start diving into the PlayStation Final Fantasy era until 7 hit. It was after 7 that I went back and I played 6, then I went to 3, and then I went to 1, and then I jumped to 8, and then 9, and then so on and so forth. And I rarely ever hear anybody talk about it, but one of the most amazing things I ever witnessed in gaming was voice actors being in a game. Because growing up in the generation I did, which is nothing but text-based games, nothing but words on a screen, Final Fantasy X hit me. And I saw these, at times, poorly acted, poorly voice acted characters. And I'm like, I didn't know what to think. I didn't know what, because the intro kicks on. You see this cast of characters gathered around this fire, and you see Titus start to narrate his story. And it blew me away because I did not know what to expect. Or maybe I did. I don't know. But PS2 changed everything for me when voice acting was introduced to games. I know that sounds kind of okay. You know, it's fairly standard today. But back then, because of technology restraints, they couldn't do a whole lot of voice stuff. The only introduction really to voices back in the day was like Mortal Kombat. You know, when you had the when somebody get hit, then recorded voice, so on and so forth. But Final Fantasy X hit me and it blew my mind when I heard it, because it was like watching a movie. A very long, very engaging movie. And when the words on the screen, it was like an interactive novel. You know, it just blew me away. And I'm a big books guy. I was back in the day. I was a part of the Accelerator Reader program for years. I loved it in school. But it's crazy, man. Yeah. FF7 back in 97, the PS1 had a massive effect. It did, dude. It really did. And I actually played it. My dad introduced me to it. God rest him. I buried him last month, and that kind of got me thinking about it. He actually introduced me to the PlayStation. A friend of his at work had just got a PlayStation and Final Fantasy VII as well. I was still on Sega CD. That's what I had at home. I had a Sega CD, a Genesis, obviously, and Super Nintendo. I was still working my way through Super Mario RPG, and on Sega CD, I only had 2 games. I had Virtua Fighter and whatever the racing game was. I forget what the racing game was on there. But yeah, anyway, so that's, you know, that was what I had. But then we go over to this guy's house, and I start seeing these visuals pop up. You see Aerith fade in. She's kind of bent down to flowers. I'm like, okay, wait. Okay, that's cool. That looks awesome. And then you see the train go by. It zooms out to show the city. And then, of course, you get engaged in the combat there shortly after. And I'm like, oh, wow. This is fantastic. It was the first time I'd really jumped into an RPG, and RPGs took over my life from there because it combined my love of reading with strategy. And man, it was history from there. And I love the combination of the two. It took me by storm. It's crazy. Oh, well, thank you, man. It's all right. I'm you know, I'm still grieving a bit, but you know, he was a great guy, and obviously it sucks to lose him, but he was going through several physical ailments, and I'm just glad he's not suffering anymore, you know. But that's an aside. But yeah, so if it wasn't for him and him working where he was and meeting this guy that had this PlayStation, I'm not sure how long it would have taken me to get into Final Fantasy, but man, I'm telling you, it's fantastic. So to this day, a little bit of a gamer treasure, I suppose. I have worked for Game Exchange, I've worked for GameStop, and I've worked for EB Games throughout the years. I've done most of my time at Game Exchange, which is a decent company, and it was great starting out. Unfortunately, over the years, it's kind of gotten meh, but when I worked there, I was able to get my hands on an original Final Fantasy for NES with the box, with the maps, with all the ads that was still inside it in great condition. The game was pristine. It wasn't sealed, unfortunately, but we did have a sealer at work, and I went ahead and I just sealed it up and bought it. I bought it for $20 with my employee discount. That is a treasure of mine that I take everywhere. Another notable collector's item, kinda, that I have is an Odyssey 2, which I believe came out in 78. I believe it came out in 78. I could be wrong about that. I have to look it up, but I've currently got it out in storage. And I got that from a friend of the family. One goal that I never got to achieve that I'm going to work on, probably again fairly soon once I get settled wherever I'm going, is working on collecting all the Final Fantasies again. I had actually gotten pretty much most of the ones on Super Nintendo. Obviously, I had the one on regular Nintendo. I had gotten all the ones on PlayStation. I was only missing some of the one of the ones on GameCube. I was also missing a couple of Final Fantasies from Game Boy. Anyway, I was working on this whole collection, and I ended up getting into a car crash. Well, I got laid off. I was working upper management at Walmart, and I got laid off because Walmart at the time had a policy that if you were injured, you were put on leave for 3 months without pay until you come back to full, rehabilitation. Well, obviously that wasn't going to work. I could only find a part-time job. So rent came due, and working at Game Exchange has its downsides because you get ideas in your head. Well, I got to do what I got to do. So I ended up selling most of those games just to make 1/3 of my rent. It was pretty brutal, and it sucked. I didn't, honestly, it hit me with some anxiety that night. I don't remember sleeping a whole lot. But it was one of those wake-up calls, because I was in my early 20s. It was one of those wake-up calls of, look, this is life, man. This is life living paycheck to paycheck. There's being a gamer. I mean, sometimes you got to sacrifice just to survive, First world problems all the way. But it still sucked. But, that's the thing about material possessions. I mean, with time and a little bit of money, you can get them back. But if I ever do it again, which I do plan on doing it, it'll obviously have to be Black Label games. If you're ever going to collect regular PlayStation games, don't go for the green labels. Those are the greatest hits. Go for the Black Label. Those were the original releases before they sold so many to become a greatest hits. Crazy memories, man. I love that. I love my job there. Helping people, explaining things to them. They always came in. I was one of the signature guys where I worked. And people always would come in asking for me. Just because, according to my favorite customers, I was really good at breaking down games and what they may or may not like about it. And that's really what helped me learn customer service, is identifying people, what they need and what they're looking for, Except obviously in a more specialized and focused manner of product. But again, something related to gaming helped me learn a life lesson of knowing and reading people, getting better at it, and leveling up in it. It's just amazing, man. It blows my mind. A lot of people might watch this video or watch this stream at some point and be like, "Is this guy high?" I'm not high, I promise. Um, but like I mentioned earlier, my dad's death, it's got me reflecting. It's got me thinking, where have I been in life? Like, what has had an impact? What are the good things? What can I appreciate? And video games are top 3, easily. Top 3, and I look forward to more too. Along with that top 3 is streaming. Whether I'm vlogging like this or I'm playing video games, um, streaming has had a pretty big impact on my life. It's become a lifestyle, much like video games. Um, there are times as a streamer, not a whole lot of people are watching, not a whole lot of people are engaging. They're just kind of lurking, and that's fine. But I find comfort, and it's fairly therapeutic in sharing my thoughts and experiences with the world, whether somebody sees it at a later date or in the present. And sharing my love of gaming, and going from there. So it's pretty fantastic. The common misconception of streaming that I think a lot of people get is that I'll start streaming and I'll build a community right away. I'll start making serious bank. I'll start cleaning up. Lightning in a bottle if that happens. Maybe 2% of streamers hit it that quick, that big. People like me, bit of a hobby streamer, it takes time, and that's not really what I was ever looking for. Like I said, it's a small community we have here on the channel, Silent Squad, the Awesome Com, and it's just been some great friends and great people throughout the years. People come and go, and you get your bad apples, but man, I love every single one of y'all, and I always will, and that's why I keep doing this. Aside from myself, it's just to keep engaged with folks and see how they're doing, And I still get messages, I still get DMs and texts, and but it's just amazing what can be built with technology, and it's had a big effect on my life. But again, very first world. It's a very first world. It really does help you appreciate the basics, though, when you don't have it, when you don't have internet. Recently, Texas went through a severe winter weather situation, and for 5 days, lost power, lost internet, gas ran out within 3 days. So it again was another life lesson of taking you back to basics, and just remembering that gas is important, food is important, roof over your head is important, warmth is important. My car became my office, basically. I was recording using my phone. I used it to charge it up, and did what I could. But it's always crazy. I really want to try. Streaming is nice. Streaming is good, but again, as long as you remember that it's an investment of time and sometimes of money. People always assume you gotta have the best gear, you gotta have the best, most expensive gear to look the best. But if you've got a middle of the road computer with a camera that does at least 720p, if you want to do video, I got a buddy, FeenixFeather over on YouTube. He's built a name for him because of the game Farming Sim. He's now he's in a Farming Sim prison because his community is always demanding Farming Simulator. But he never shows his face. He always uses his voice. He always talks over gameplay. But nobody's ever seen him. I mean, I've seen him, but there are different kinds of streamers, and I count myself as a variety streamer, although I play what I like. I don't force myself to play what I'm not gonna enjoy, because like I said, I'm not really in it for the numbers game or for the money. It's just for the engagement with me and feeding my lifestyle, I suppose. But if you get locked and narrowed down to one game as a streamer, it can be one of the most frustrating things, because you kind of want to, you kind of want to get away from it. You spent 4 or 5 years easily on one game, but your community is built on that. Especially if you start making money, your community is built on it. And then that's when it crosses the line from being a hobby and enjoying it into being a job, and it becomes a grind. There is a line. And I've done my damnedest to be very careful not to cross that line. And it's not easy. But it does happen. It does happen. Or to just engage the people. Yeah, see, well, that's what I do. I really like hearing y'all's life stories and engaging when I can. I still have a full-time job. And I've mainly worked customer service, technical support throughout the years. But I enjoy it, man. I really do. Again, when you're burdened with certain disorders, stuff like this really helps. It helps you keep somewhat engaged with society, without the weight of worrying about, are you looking or having a nervous breakdown, or well, it's hard to explain. Unless you have social anxiety, unless you're bipolar, there's a fear. There's a constant fear that people are judging you. And this stems, unfortunately, from my child abuse, or being a victim of child abuse. And the chemicals in my brain being, wonky. But there's always a fear of looking abnormal, out of place. People are judging you constantly, all eyes on you. Which is kind of counterintuitive when you think about streaming, because literally all eyes are on you, but there's nobody around except for this thing. It obviously folks on the other end watching, but it's just crazy. Oh man, missing the social contact, especially in the world of lockdowns we're living in. Yeah, that's something, especially with COVID. I've had a couple of friends affected by COVID. I actually had a friend that lost his father to COVID, and I'll tell you, when you are a gamer or a streamer, especially if, again, it's a part of your lifestyle, you're already used to being inside. So it doesn't really change a whole lot, but it does change people. And you kind of miss being outside in the sunshine or going for a walk, or I tell you what I really miss is biking. Being on a road, and I gotta lose weight to be able to do it more, but I'm currently at about 340, 330, and I think the lowest I've ever been is like 275, give or take. But growing up, man, biking outside, God, it was so awesome. Just free with the wind in your hair, or what used to be hair. Hitting a speed bump every so often and then popping it. Best feeling ever. Best feeling ever. Used to ride around on a Huffy with a bike helmet on, a motorcycle helmet on, listening to my Walkman. I used to listen to a lot of Michael Jackson. His History album. I got it on video, or on audio cassette. I used to listen to that. I was a big pop kind of guy. Notably, Michael Jackson, Janet Jackson, NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, Britney Spears, Aerosmith, 98 Degrees. I was all over the place. Queen. I really started getting Queen late 90s, which was a shame because, they'd already stopped touring by then, and Freddie Mercury had already passed. Rest in peace. But, man, it's just nuts. And I'll tell you, one of the games I really enjoyed when you combine music with games, it was fairly popular, but it wasn't the most popular, and that was Revolution X. which had Aerosmith in it. And it blew my mind when I played that at the arcade. And you're literally firing music discs to... It was the best thing ever. Ugh. Good to have an eclectic taste. That it is. That it is. I agree. I don't know. Like I said, I don't like to be narrowed down. I don't like to be stuck on one thing. And that goes for both gaming, streaming, and music, and movies, and books, and currently relationships. I don't like being tied down. But as with age, I am getting to a point to where I do want to plant a flag somewhere. So I'm currently in the process of relocating within the next, hopefully, 5 to 6 months. And I get some money saved up. See where I'm going to go. Thankfully, I've gotten rid of some collectibles and stuff, just minimizing. I still have everything the community's contributed over the years, but stuff that I bought personally had a crap ton. If you look at earlier videos, I had a crap ton of Funko Pops in the background. Gaming posters, wall scrolls, all kinds of stuff. But with everything, I'm looking at, I've minimized it. I've auctioned some of it off. I've gotten, took a big chunk of it to Game Exchange. And come to find out, some of those Funkos I had no idea were actually worth a good bit. I had an Aloy Funko Pop from Horizon Zero Dawn, bought it for $5 about 2 years ago. Take it into Game Exchange. They tell me to keep it, sell it online. I sold it online for $172. It blew my mind. You would think as a collector I'd keep up with that, but like I said, I'm just a bit of a general collector. If I like it, I'll buy it and I'll keep it. I'll put it on display, keep it in the living room, or keep it in a box somewhere. But that was one of them. The other one was a Beetlejuice Funko Pop that was worth about $50. So, yeah, pretty crazy. That's a very good return. Very good return. So yeah, so I got about, I got some money saved back. This next stimulus that we're gonna be getting is gonna go towards that. And then I got some medical bills I gotta catch up on. After that, save it for a few months, wherever I want to go, pretty much. Not a whole lot of people can do that right now. I am very lucky in that regard, because there's a whole lot of people that are suffering financially. But thankfully, in my situation, I'm not married, don't have kids, which is bittersweet in ways, but I can do it, explore, do what I need to do, especially before I start hitting the big 4-0 and 5-0 and start getting up there. I don't know. It would have been greater if I could have done it earlier in my life, but I had other goals, and I can hopefully get a career started in really for an awesome tech support company. I'm still working on a couple of courses, but I'm really looking forward to it, man, and I'm really looking forward to the journey. And of course, I'll be sharing it here on the channel too. In fact, moving day, I've been planning to stream live on my phone using mobile data. Mobile data really sucks for streaming unless you have a decent unlimited plan. But even then, you hit data spots that are non-existent, and so you get gaps. But I'm gonna make it a bit of a road trip. I'm looking at staying in Texas, or I've looked at Colorado, Echo City, Colorado, because Colorado for various reasons, but I'm looking forward to it. They've been all over the place with this stimulus, man. I don't know. It's but the most recent check is going to be about $1,400, just to kind of get some money back into the economy and really help people out. I was really looking forward to a couple of other proponents of this act they were putting out, but they didn't go through. It kind of sucks. But yeah, I mean, that's basically how it works. If you make under a certain amount, you'll be getting a stimulus check. So that's basically it. It's 1,400 US. So where are you located, Chimp? Curious. I mean, you're obviously outside the US because, you know, you put 5 pounds. So I'm guessing over in Europe somewhere. I've got, it's, again, going back to the amazing thing about streaming and engaging people with the internet. There's people from Australia, Canada, India, Hawaii. Hawaii's a part of the US, but Alaska. I've had some viewers from Malaysia. There was one that blew my mind. I can't remember. I remember getting a DM. So I'd have to look back at it. This happened a few years ago, but I remember getting a DM from somebody that said that they had watched me for a bit. They could only watch the videos every so often. It was when I was doing ARC back in the day. We did ARC here on the channel for 2-3 years. I had my own server, everything. It's some of the biggest games have been ARC, Injustice 2, and Resident Evil would probably be the closest contender. But anyway, they used to watch the ARC videos, and they were on an oil rig south of the globe. They were down near the Arctic, and because of the satellite connection, they could only, you know, do so much. But they sent me a DM just saying thank you for providing decent casual content, because they used to watch it off and on. So it wasn't anything big, but it was really cool. You know, they're just out in the middle of the ocean watching the content. I was like, what? Dude, you are so welcome. And be safe. Just be safe. It was crazy. UK, just outside London. Gotcha. I tell you, we here in the US have our problems, but you guys got your problems too. You know, that's universal. Any country's gonna have its problems. And it would be very American of me and very arrogant to believe that we here in the US have far worse problems, but it's not the truth. Even though that does tend to be the consensus here because we are who we are, I guess. But yeah, that's really cool though. It's really cool. I'm glad to have you as a part of the community too. It's really awesome. Yeah, no, y'all do, you know. Yeah, it's amazing, man. I've actually, in case you want to check them out, they're mainly on YouTube, but there is a couple of people you could check out. A buddy of mine, Palne, is actually Irish. He does gaming, fairly small channel. CMO Gamer, she does a lot of Sims stuff. The Sims, mainly. There's another gent, his name is Zero. I haven't talked to him in a couple of years, but he's done some gaming off and on. I know those are notably across the pond, as it were. Could just been a mess. It's a break. Yeah, Brexit really kind of messed y'all up, much like the last 4 years has done for us. It's been a whole wave of problems worldwide. Earthquakes, COVID. It's funny, because of political choices that we made here in the US, it kind of caused stability problems around the world. So it's pretty nuts. But yeah, all of us have our pitfalls, I guess. I will say though, I am fairly jealous of y'all over there in the UK, mainly because of your healthcare system. I know y'all have problems, but my father, my adopted father, is Canadian. He's still alive. My biological father is the one that passed. He's Canadian, and he tells me stories of the healthcare system in Canada, and I'm like, why did you move? You know, why did you move? But he came down here mainly for, you know, get married. My mom and him have been together 2 years now, or 20 years. 2 years. Not doing it any justice. But anyway, I am fairly jealous of that. But with that said, one thing I really hope, notably, especially with Europe, I don't know if you play it, but World of Warcraft, one of the downsides to MMOs, and I guess a bunch of other games, is the sectioning off of servers. European servers, American servers, ocean servers. If we could ever reach a point, and I know some games are doing it nowadays, but if we could ever reach a point to where it's universal, that every server is connected, and it's not sectioned off. Obviously, there's a lot of power demand in that, as well as networking. But low-key, I think that would help unite the world a little bit better. Because you could play with people from other countries. In a lot more, anyway. And I only say that because I actually played on the European servers on World of Warcraft when I worked the night shift for 6 months. Because I was still up at night. And obviously, you folk are going to be up when we're in bed. So, I joined the European server. And I gotta say, some great people, man. I ran into some great people. And had some pretty amazing discussions, especially politically. But it helps you be a little bit more traveled, a little bit more worldly when you can encounter people from wherever it may be. Because you're busting that bubble of being caught up in your own world, in your own country, and realizing that people around the world are people too. And you have this general consensus of, especially here in the US, my God, of demonizing people from other countries. Because they're not American. They're not a part of us. They're not a part of who we are. And yet, we all breathe the same damn air. We have the same color blood, same heart, same mind, same hobbies, gaming. It is the gaming that binds us. But I think it would really kind of help bust that bubble a little bit. So I think it's really important to talk to people from other countries. Agreed. When you start getting to more of a global society, like we're approaching, the key term I use is tribalism. We're all a part of a tribe in one way or another, politically, geographically, sometimes gaming wise. Because I play a lot of Overwatch, but I've also played Black Ops 3. And I've had some people on Black Ops 3 tell me, go back to Overwatch. I've had people on Overwatch tell me, go back to Black Ops 3. And of course, anybody on League of Legends is totally toxic, in my experience. I tried League of Legends, and they're just like, go back to Warcraft. Like, that's the sad part too, especially with e-leagues popping up and people getting hardcore about gaming, is that it ups the level of having to be the best, which is a good thing. But at the same time, it gets rid of the casual, and people get pretty toxic if you're not at their level, you know. I mean, it's going to happen either way. You just kind of brush it off, especially in online games. But I've seen a couple of friends go the route of causing themselves so much anxiety and so much anger because they were a part of trying to be on a league. And they were working their ass off to meet and to get that ability up and up and up and up. But they were told they weren't good enough by their teammates. They were mocked for it. And somebody messaged me one night and told me that they were shit. They're worthless. Because they couldn't meet that goal. I gotta tell you, as a friend, when somebody comes at you like that, it kind of pissed me off. And you kind of get it in your head, this isn't what gaming is about. Gaming is fun. Gaming is something fantastic, something to be enjoyed. But unfortunately on the pro circuit, gaming is taken to a level of just non-stop anxiety. And that's why I could never do it. That's why I personally stay away from competitive play, even in Overwatch. People, especially viewers, ask me, why don't you play competitive? Because I'm decent. I mean, I'm not perfect, but I just can't do it, man. Because I know myself. Number one, I want to stay away from that toxicity, but at the same time, I can have a competitive side because, yeah, gamer, human, want to be the best. And, but I don't dip my toe in that water, man. I stay away from it because, damn, I mean, it's crazy. But, thankfully, I don't know. I think people of my generation, we kind of had it pretty decent because we witnessed, I think we were one of the last generations to grow up without the internet, to grow up primarily without video games. And we had a taste of the world before. We had a taste of the world before. And that's a great thing. That's a great thing to have because you have that mix. You have that foundation of not having technology growing up, at least not immersive technology. But now you can grow up into it. And if you have kids, you can kind of tell them, look, it's okay not to have technology. It's okay not to be able to beat every other player. Chill, you know, play solo, enjoy the game. Go out and take a break. Go out and ride a bike, you know. My parents, it's funny because my parents were all over me about that growing up. All over me about that. It's horrible. Exactly. It's got to be fun above all things. We had the world without the internet and mobiles. Exactly. We had payphones. It's funny. One of my favorite episodes of Futurama, they're walking down and they see payphones, and Hermes throws away. He sees a payphone and he's like, finally, I don't have to carry this cell phone around anymore. He throws it in the trash, makes a call on the payphone. Circular society. Mobile phones are great, but at the same time, I don't know, personally, it would be pretty great to just not have to worry about being tracked or people calling me any second, any minute of the day. And of course, nowadays, back in the day, if somebody couldn't get a hold of you, it was acceptable. But nowadays, if it's not, somebody tries to reach you, why didn't you answer your phone? I mean, I was taking a break, you know. Demand and anxiety. It comes with technology. I was telling my Lisa we didn't have phones. Hey, Crusher, what's going on, dude? Oh, I was her age and it blew her mind. She couldn't comprehend it, right? Right? It's like the earth being flat. It makes no sense. It makes no freaking sense. Because that's not their reality. That's not the reality they grew up in. And it's, again, mind-blowing. It's crazy. Nothing much, Crusher, man. How you doing? How's streaming working out? Hopefully everything's going good. Crusher, he popped in the community a little bit ago, and he's been kind of getting streaming up and going. I've been seeing your notifications off and on. Hopefully everything's been going good. I hope. But affiliated soon. Cool. Yeah, you just, what are you missing? The viewership? I would think. I think that's what you mentioned last time anyway. All right. Hey, Chimp. Thanks for hanging out. Good to talk to you. Stay safe. Stay sane. Yeah, it's, gaming, video games, and technology, man. It's crazy. 0.6. Now I'm at 1.32. You're getting there, man. Takes time and dedication. Proud of you. Proud for you. That's really awesome. You too, sir. You too. Donated $3 if I need more for stream. Oh, well, you get there. You get there. Donations, a little bit of advice. I don't, you know, I don't really, I know of you, but I don't really know you a whole lot. Don't go begging for donations. You know, just put out a label. you know, whatever graphics on your Twitch page, and let them come to you. You know, keep pushing through on it, and see what happens. Because that's good. That's good. Because the streamers that are constantly begging for money, it's really tiring to people, and people don't want to watch that unless, an asterisk on that, unless you're a really hot chick showing cleavage, and then if you're begging for money, you might can get away with it. You might get away with it, but unfortunately, a lot of streamers can go a negative way on that too, because they start being like, "Well, if you're not paying, I'm not talking to you," and that's just pathetic, in my opinion. But I see you when I was donating, I was happy, and they randomly did. That's awesome. Yeah, yeah, right. Totally. Yeah, but that's streaming though, man. It's streaming. It's funny. I tell my friends, when they ask me, "What is streaming? What are you talking about?" You know, because a lot of people associate the word stream with water. It's a flow of water through the land. But no, I tell them, okay, so I'm basically, you're walking down the street, you see a guy out on the sidewalk with a guitar and a hat out, right? If he's playing good, you might tip him $1, some 50 cents, something like that. Take that and put it on a digital platform. Except instead of a guitar, I'm playing video games and engaging with people around the world. And they tip you digitally. Oh, that's what it is. Okay. Do you have co-work? I don't, man. I've been out of Call of Duty for a while. Although I do have Modern Warfare. Although I just haven't installed it because it's a big ass game size-wise, and I've been playing Cyberpunk and Overwatch, all kinds of stuff. It does look pretty good though. It does look good. Okay, where are we at? Wow, we've been going an hour and 7 minutes. That's nuts. Kind of flew by. All right. I think I'm going to go ahead and call this vlog finito. It was a fantastic chat about games and life, technology, addiction, so on and so forth. A big shout out to Time, Crusher, Chimp Pimp 1987. I love that name. Crusher 4147. In the year 4147, only one person can crush the game. I love that. All right. But yeah, thank y'all. A big shout out to you. Stay safe, stay sane. Remember, you are awesome. Never let the world tell you otherwise. See ya. Oh, we'll be back within a few hours with Pokemon. If you're still here. Peace.